one of the things that we like to do here at Film Thread is we like to review the movies that a lot of others do not. And Dante was with us when we talked about Matt Walsh's movie, What is a Woman? Where literally Dante wrote the review for What is a Woman. And also, I think we were literally one of like only 5 media outlets that reviewed the film.
Yeah.
And what I would say there is that I think it's disappointing to me how cowardly some of our colleagues are who talk about movies. Like, look, if you don't politically align or agree with necessarily the subject, you can give it a bad review, right? Or you can pick the movie apart. And what's really distressing is to see, I'm part of an organization called the CCA, which is Critics' Choice Awards. And I vote for that awards event, which is in January. I think it airs on the CW. But we should be reviewing all films at Film Thread. And by the way, we posted this thing. I want to go to our Instagram real quick before Dante gets into it. I want to go to our Instagram. We posted something on Instagram. It was I was at a movie theater. Let me see. I'm going to, let me just share screen here. I was at a movie theater seeing a movie, and this movie called Call Jane was there. There was a poster, which was pretty awesome. And it says, triumphantly celebrates the tenacity and power of women. Now, I did not write that. Was that the AMC?
That was Norm. Norm wrote that.
Norm wrote it. Okay, so we have a lot of writers at Film Thread. We've got about 30 people who freelance write for Film Thread, each of them contributing about 4 reviews a month. Alan does a lot of reviews. Alan does a good chunk. So we've got maybe between 150 or 200 reviews going up on filmthread.com every month, right? We have our staff of writers, very diverse, not in the ways that Hollywood would say are diverse, but diverse when it comes to thought. We have a lot of people who, and so look, I didn't write this, Alan didn't, but I love that Film Thread's on the poster. Make of it what you will. But you're gonna like some of the writers at Film Thread. You're gonna think, oh, I like that guy, and some people are gonna say, oh, I don't like that person. Whatever. You're free to have your opinion about our reviews, but it is in true diversity, and by that I mean, Film Thread is, and I have maintained, politically agnostic. Okay, we will review films on all sides of the political aisle because that is my job. If I'm really going to call myself a journalist, my job should be to be impartial and to bring in a truly diverse group of writers to represent all types of opinions. And so we're being shit on here on our Instagram, people saying like, I thought this looked really clever. Then I realized it wasn't a joke. I love these. Okay. Looks about as fun as getting my eyelashes pulled out with fire. Sorry for the negativity. Thanks, Hollywood. Meh. So people are kind of shitting on the quote from the poster. Like, look, we write a lot of reviews are on the site. People pick what quotes they pick, whatever. But all I'm saying is you can expect various opinions on Film Thread. That's just the way it is. And so there you are. But on that note, what I want to do is I want to get, because we'll review the films that others won't. We reviewed The Boys in Red Hats, which is a documentary about Nick Sandmann and the boys in Washington, D.C. when they were wearing MAGA hats, and that was totally mischaracterized by the mainstream media, resulting in a lawsuit against CNN that Nick Sandmann and company won. We reviewed What is a Woman? Look on the channel. What is a Woman? Dante was a part of that review. This is a very long-winded introduction because I want to turn it over. I want to turn it over to Dante to get your review of The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, a documentary featuring Candace Owens. And take it away, Dante. We'll discuss.
Yeah, no, you look, Chris, you made a great point where you said like our job is to review movies. And regardless of how we feel politically, socially, if we're going to call ourselves a critic, then we got to, kind of put our beliefs aside and do our job, right? So for most people who know me, they know that honestly, in my personal life, I am politically homeless. Like I can care less about either party. I think Democrats and conservatives are both equally forgive the word stupid. And I say that only because, when you veer too far either way, you're begging to be led, right, by people who will take advantage of you. But I don't personally care for Candace Owens. There's a lot of issues I have with her. But with that said, I went into this movie completely blank. I went in saying, you know what? I'm going to base it on its merit, not who the person who made it, because I just want to see if she has something real to say about this topic, right? And the topic being Black Lives Matter. The biggest problem I have with this film, I say the thing that bugs me the most is the fact that it's an 80-minute film. It's an hour and 20 minutes. She spends 50 of those minutes, about 50 of those minutes smearing George Floyd. George Floyd, what happened, and it's terrible. And I agree that everybody overreacted. And when I say that, his death was not an overreaction. That was messed up. What happened, and it shouldn't have happened that way, but it did. But everyone took that and ran with their own agenda with it, right? So what Candace Owens did was right after the man died, she made this Instagram video where she is basically calling out all of his faults and why we shouldn't feel bad about this guy dying the way he died. And this is literally like maybe 2 weeks after the guy died. So she got a lot of backlash for it. And she even states it in the film that she took it personally. So I feel like this whole movie was about her lashing back at the people who lashed out at her for that stupid Instagram video, right? See, for me personally, I have a lot of issues with Black Lives Matter. There is a lot of dirt that she could have uncovered that she didn't even touch on. And if you're going to make a movie about Black Lives Matter called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, then I'm expecting you to do a deep dive. I'm expecting to hear, not just about Patrice Cullors. Everyone knows about her and the money she scammed and all of that. And to Candace's credit, she did, show some things that I didn't even know, which was how Black Lives Matter was funneling money from or collecting money for the Black victims, or for the victims of the families, and taking that money and transferring it into trans organizations, because the woman she's dating or engaged to is a trans, or I guess a trans man now. I don't know. But that was eye-opening and that was shocking. But the problem is like she spends about 10 minutes on that, and the whole movie's about smearing George Floyd. And regardless of how I feel about Candace Owens, I wanted to actually go in. I was actually hoping that this was going to be a very, exposing documentary. And I wanted it to be like, okay, we're putting this whole organization on blast. But it just felt very light. It felt like the kiddie pool of documentaries. It felt like she didn't do much research at all into Black Lives Matter, like nothing I couldn't have found on Google on the first page. And honestly, she's not charismatic enough of a person to carry a documentary that's so focused on her. And I felt like that's what it was. It's like it's more like, hey, this is why you should like me, instead of let me expose what's going on in this organization. So as a documentary, to me, it failed. Whereas I'm not a big fan of Matt Walsh either, but I still gave What Is a Woman a great review because it was well done. It was informative. He actually comes off good on screen, and he actually has something to say in a lot of areas regarding what is a woman and the trans situation. But I feel like Candace Owens didn't do a deep dive, and it was shallow. It was hollow. And honestly, I was bored. Like there was a point where I was just listening to it, and I started playing Overwatch because I was bored. So it just didn't have the weight I wanted this documentary to have, and it doesn't have the weight that she is promoting it to have, because she's making it sound like she exposes all the secrets of Black Lives Matter, and she doesn't do that.
Dante, I also saw The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. And we talked about What Is a Woman. We had not only did you review it like on the website, but on our YouTube channel, but also we had a really good discussion after. And you know, I like to get many perspectives whenever I look at any issue, right? And like you, I don't consider myself necessarily politically homeless, but more independent. Let's say that, like independent, where you know, sometimes I voted on one side of the aisle, sometimes the other. I usually vote for the team that is the least crazy. And
that's a good policy.
yeah, exactly. The least crazy you look, and I think everybody knows who the least crazy side is these days. You know, look, it's the way it is. The least, you know, like, so there you go. Anyway, so I also saw The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. And also, I love documentaries. Give me a deep dive into a topic. And actually, I don't have as many problems with, easy for me to say, I don't have as many problems with Candace Owens as you do. You know, like, I like sometimes when she does like a woke takedown, like Candace Owens destroys woke student. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So
exactly. But I had high hopes for this documentary, and like you, I was disappointed. Because it didn't go the deeper layers.
No.
So some of the things, I'm just going to echo what you said. It doesn't go the deeper layers. It spends way too much time on George Floyd and his background, interviewing like some like old roommates in this and what like everybody knew he had a criminal record.
Yeah, now, we all know that. No one is saying that George Floyd died on the cross for us, right? Like most black, and I feel like conservatives had this weird like idea that, you know, we put George Floyd on this pedestal where it's like, no, we know this dude was messed up. It's just messed up the way he died, you know, in a public execution. That's the issue we have. Not saying that this guy was a great guy or anything, you know.
Well, he got a statue for one thing.
Well,
yeah, but that you know why that happened, though.
Yeah, I know why that happened.
But it's weird that like after the fact, it seemed like the media was fueling this. There's this sort of like, you know, he's suddenly turned into a saint, and I think that was, I mean,
but again, that was the media, not black folks, and I think that's the issue I have with Candace Owens, is she tries to make it seem like black folks had put him on this pedestal, and that's not what we did at all. You know, that's what the media did.
And so also, as just coming from a filmmaker perspective, right? Because I made a documentary, working on another documentary. There was a clear thing whenever they showed the George Floyd stuff, they play this like almost like scary music. So
yes,
like scary music, George Floyd. Then they showed, this is the thing that like I noticed that they did this little part on Derek Chauvin.
Oh yeah,
and it's like,
I didn't even bring that up.
I mean the Saint Derek Chauvin.
No, they showed Derek Chauvin. They talk about Derek Chauvin. They interview people who knew him, and
his mom.
They literally make him out to be the nicest guy on the planet. Now, no person is one extreme or the other. You know what? I'm sure he was like, look, I'm sure the guy had some problems, right? But he wasn't a saint either, as this movie tries to do. The other thing is Candace Owens as the presenter of all this. I think that she is probably the wrong person to tell this story.
She is absolutely the wrong person. And she even knows that in the film. She said it many times that if she uses her real name, no one will talk to her. And that's because of the reputation she built.
Right. So,
I just say this about Derek Chauvin, but the way she presented it was, yeah, he's this saint. He's this really quiet person. He's a nice guy. But then they keep saying he's a quiet person. He doesn't say a whole lot. I mean, this is like the classic, guy who sits in a room and stews on.
Yes, exactly.
And the other thing is what stuck out to me about this entire documentary. It just felt like a book report, especially regarding the George Floyd stuff. She went out, got all the evidence that supported her side, and then presented it to us, and that's what we got. To me, honestly, the what I found the most interesting about this documentary was the whole Black Lives Matter and the business and the scam that it was, and
that's the part you spent 20 minutes on. Instead of doing the whole film about it, it was basically the last 20 minutes she talked about that.
And like you said, there's so much you can talk about with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, she spent way too much time on George Floyd, way too much time just trying to pick apart every aspect of him and his life. Talk to the people who owned the liquor store to kind of exonerate them, where the guy brought out like a box of fake counterfeit, bills.
The guy acted like The guy acted like he was high on meth, or high on fentanyl, which he was. I mean,
Right.
if anything, George Floyd comes out a little more relatable in the sense of here's a drug addict who's trying to feed his habit.
But here's the thing: if you watch that video as well, he wasn't acting crazy in the store. He just went in to buy something, and he had a fake 20.
Yeah,
and make like him dying for that reason is ridiculous, because I've had fake 20s before where I didn't know I had a fake 20 on me, like, or I've lent someone money and they paid me back in a 20 and I didn't know it was fake. So I go to a store and yeah, the guy marked it and said, "Hey, this is fake, by the way." There was no one called the police because I passed a fake 20. So the whole situation is just bizarre to me how it all unfolded.
Well,
but that's
to counter that though. It's the toxicology report that I found interesting, is like why no one talks about that, because
right,
based on that report, the stress, the elevated heart rate level, that could have definitely led into a fentanyl overdose.
But here's the problem with that. Sure, it could have, and I don't want this to make this a George Floyd conversation, right. But it doesn't help when a 200 and something pound guy has his knee on your neck,
yeah,
and leaning his full weight into it. You know what I mean? Like, especially when, number one, you're already handcuffed, your hands are behind your back handcuffed, and two officers are already holding your legs down. Why did he need his knee on the guy's neck?
And he's not struggling at all.
Not just that. Did they not recognize that he was having a medical issue? That to me, I don't know why no one. They should have called an ambulance right away. He's
right.
He's obviously he's not getting anywhere with being handcuffed. Get some. He needed medical attention clearly. But again, I don't want to focus.
Yeah, I don't want to make this about George Floyd. But the problem is that she made it about George Floyd in this documentary for 50 of the 80 minutes.
Right. No, that's the other thing. That's the other thing you brought up, Alan. You said that it feels like a book report. Like, I just feel like the reporting was weak. Like it's like, look, okay, we've heard about, and this is in the mainstream media. We've heard about BLM's mishandling of the funds that they were given. Her entire premise for this is about the tax returns, right? Mm-hmm. So the tax returns was her guide into talking about this topic, and that to me would have been the more interesting thing. Having said that, by the way, it's pretty good if you go into any charitable organization, not this egregious, the salaries of people who run charitable organizations would boggle your mind.
Oh, it's nuts.
$500 million, $1 million salaries. That's why I'm like really suspicious about any charitable organization I give anything to, because I'm looking at, is this going to just pay some $500,000 salary for some CEO? It's
right.
BS. So
not to reveal my political affiliation, but I was a born again evangelical in the 80s. And I lived through Jim and Tammy, Jimmy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I got burned by some of them. And you realize that even in the name of God, people are ripping people off. People are taking advantage of people who want to do good, want to do right, or who need help. And Black Lives Matter is the left version of what the right was doing in the 80s.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, and I feel like this needs to be said, by me talking about, Black Lives Matter, I'm talking about the organization, not the movement, right? Like, I feel like there are good-hearted people who think that, they're doing the right thing by saying Black Lives Matter, and, and they are against police brutality. And we're not talking about, the common man on the street here. We're talking about the people within that organization who bought mansions. I remember Sean King, like that guy, he blocked me on Twitter. He blocked me on Twitter faster than like Joe Biden forgets his name. Like it's that, no, really, like, because I went after him. Like I was like, I would ask him about the donation money that he would collect. And he basically got tired of me and blocked me. And I noticed this happened with a few other members of, and this is like years ago. This was like way before George Floyd. So this situation has been going on for a long time, where money is being funneled into their own personal accounts, and they're just now being called on it. You know what I mean? And so she had years to go back to like find out, like, where did this person get this? Where did this person get this? Right? Like, there's no reason why all these people should have all these lush houses if they're just like working for a charity. But she didn't do that deep dive, and she gave us very surface level stuff. And like I said, the one bit of information she gave us, which I thought was kind of mind blowing, was the whole trans thing, where she funneled money from Black victims to all these trans organizations throughout Canada and the U.S. And I thought that was pretty eye opening.
That's not what people were giving their money for. That's
at all. That money was supposed to go to the victims of the families. I'm sorry, the families of the victims,
or into the communities,
or into the community, and they never received a dime or very little of it.
Yeah, that aspect was the strongest aspect, but you're right, Dante. She spends the least amount of time on it, and then the other thing is she's not as like we talked about. What is a woman? Matt Walsh, he's this sort of dry wit, almost like a Stephen Wright comedian. He's almost partially a comedian. And I think that's an easier message to be able to get across a serious point, is to use humor. And Candace Owens, I'm sorry to say, she's just not as likable as like a Matt Walsh.
No,
Matt Walsh being very awkward, kind of like, but also like sticking to his guns on things. And Candace Owens just kind of made it about herself and kind of like redeeming her social media image. And I feel like, and also the movie's short. It's like an hour 20. And look, so we've talked about other, look, we're one of the films are at one of the few outlets to actually review and talk about. And we've got, Alan, could you bring up Dante's review is actually on filmthreat.com. We're one of the few outlets that actually cover some of the content coming from Daily Wire, whether it be Gina Carano's new movie, or the Western that she did, or Shut In, which is a thriller, not political at all. I mean, they read the Bible. There's like biblical messages in Shut In, a thriller. And Matt Walsh's documentary, very controversial. I know he's doing a college tour right now.
And we know why, man. It's like most critics today are cowards, and they're either cowards or they have something to lose, which means they won't get all the access that they get if they actually spoke out or if they actually did their job the way they're supposed to do their job.
What did you get? Can you scroll down, Alan? What did Dante ultimately? It's 2 pages, but
he gave it a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Well, yes. Now, Dante, you're going to be accused of being a white supremacist. I'm pretty sure after this comes out. After it's revealed,
that hasn't happened yet.
Well, you know what's really funny though is, I think most people who don't like Candace Owens will say, good, she deserves a 4. The problem is that I didn't want to give her a 4 because I don't like her. I gave her the 4 because that's what the documentary earned. And I feel like I almost wish the movie was better so that the people who need to hear the message will hear it and watch it. But we never got that movie. We never got that documentary, unfortunately. Because I think a lot more people, and I'm going to say this, especially Black people, need to hear about how twisted and messed up this organization is, at least from the inside. You know what I mean? And the people who she wanted to hear it are never going to watch it. So she's basically speaking to her own echo chamber when she made this documentary.
Well, that's kind of the issue I have with a lot of the Daily Wire content. It's only available on Daily Wire. You have to have a Daily Wire subscription to be able to see it. It's not available on iTunes and what. Like, I get the strategy. You have to go to the Daily Wire to get these documentaries. There's an interesting, also, we haven't talked about it on the YouTube channel, but Michael Knowles did a series on Fauci that I thought was it was good, but I wanted it to be better. It should have just been a movie. Right. With the material in there. But
well, that's what I don't necessarily call what these movies are. Maybe What Is a Woman, definitely, but the other ones, they feel more like exposés than they are, documentary movies.
Right.
I agree with that as well. Yeah. Like it seems like it's something that they should just have on their site for free. Because look, if you want more people to review it, right? Number one, most liberal critics aren't going to review their movies. But if you want at least more people to see it, either put it on iTunes, like you said, some kind of streaming service outside of their own, or make it free. Yeah. But otherwise, it's going to be very hard for people to give money to the Daily Wire, knowing their political leanings.
The Black audience may not be big Daily Wire subscribers.
That's what I'm saying is I think that these movies are an important part of the discussion. This one for me failed. I mean, greatest lie ever sold. Greatest lie ever told. Why did I say sold? I keep saying
No, I think it is sold, right?
no. It's greatest lie
No,
ever
it's
told.
right there in the background.
Greatest lie ever told.
Told.
There's a movie by Morgan Spurlock called The Greatest Movie Ever Sold. This is the greatest lie ever told. Oh my God, we've got it wrong in the banner.
I'll fix it.
Can you fix that, Alan? The greatest lie ever told. That's my mistake. I take full responsibility. It's the greatest lie ever told. But so we should make sure to correct that. But look, I think it's important to for these films to be a part of the conversation, to be a part of the discussion. So it's important. You know, it gets us talking about these issues, but not in an echo chamber. Okay, which is important. So, but look on the front page of Film Threat right now. There you go, breaking myths. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, it's about. I mean, this one basically takes down the Brazilian president. Very critical of the Brazilian president, who's basically called the Trump of Brazil.
Wait, did they? Okay, Glanuccio says no, it's sold. They changed the title.
Yeah, I thought it was sold.
Is it?
Yeah, but it's in the background.
It's in the background on the graphic. Can you research this?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you, Glanuccio. Thank you for that. But yeah, this on the cover of Film Threat right now. We cover films on all sides of the political spectrum. I think it's important for us.
Yeah, where did we get that background? Because it is sold. I'm looking at sold now.
All right, can you change it back, Alan?
Yeah, I'll change it. Dear Lord.
Hey,
and you know what? I mean, it kind of speaks to a bigger problem, I think, at least with our industry, man. It's like at this point, you know, and I know Alan hates this word, but, you know, there are a lot of shills out there, man, you know, and there's people who will give things a good review because they want to keep getting that access. You know, there's people who gave She-Hulk a great review because they want, you know, Disney to invite them to things, you know, and they want, you know, the Comic-Con badges and they want all these things. So they'll give a terrible, you know, show, movie a great review. They'll avoid other movies because they're controversial and they don't want to have to take a risk and give their real opinion about something, right? So, you know, we're far and away from the days of like Rex Reed and like, you know, Gene Siskel, you know, like Roger Ebert. Like we're far beyond that because I think now critics have gotten used to getting things for being a good boy or a good girl. You know what I mean?
Well, I also think critics don't want Twitter mad at them, and I think corporations don't want Twitter mad at them, and it bothers me because who is Twitter? Why do we care what Twitter thinks? And yet we live and make decisions based on. That's what got James Gunn fired from Marvel. Is what Twitter.
Yeah,